Good.
Number 3, clear communication and transparency.
I need to get some oil because it's time for a car service.
Going down, yeah. I found a dress.
And no, it's not for me.
Or the Middle East, the market there is completely different, and you're going to do things in a completely different way.
So it's a Sunday. Sundays, I usually have a look at the chart, kind of analyze what's been going on throughout the whole week, the previous week, and then plan what I'm looking at in the coming week ahead, based on various other factors that could affect the markets, such as geopolitical events. So Sundays ends up usually being an activity where I'm going to have to go through all the data to figure out what's going on and sort of plan ahead and see what opportunities could present themselves. Obviously, when major news happens, that's going to be a case of where you got to look at that in a couple of days in advance, for example, and as I've mentioned in the previous vlogs, NFP and CPI, but they've already happened earlier on in the month. So now it's winding down, coming up to Easter, and we're going to have a look at how the market starts to unfold. Obviously, gold has been hitting all-time highs, crazy where it's gone. So we're going to see how things play out over the coming year, 2025. There's a lot of things that are happening in the financial space that are going to affect crypto in general, especially with Trump being in power now. And the tariffs that he is implementing to various nations around the world are going to have a major impact. And if Bitcoin becomes one of the reserve digital currencies that they use as a nation, then you're going to see the price of Bitcoin skyrocket considerably. So keep an eye out for that. And that will then likely shape the rest of the crypto market as well. So something to keep an eye on.
Oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh? Nail done, hair done, everything did. Nails done, hair done, everything did. Oh, you fancy, huh?
5 lights on ahead of the drivers. It's lights out and away we go. And Oscar Piastri didn't get as good a start as George Russell. The Mercedes is coming right at him and has got the inside line into turn 1. But Piastri holds Russell off. Round the outside goes Lando Norris. On the inside, Lewis Hamilton is ahead of Max Verstappen.
2 McLarens are in front. Continuing last year's strong finish, both Piastri and Norris are both doing great this year.
The checkered flag might come just in time. There's the checkered flag and there's his first win in 2025. Oscar Piastri wins the Chinese Grand Prix.
Pretty good actually. McLarens have done great so far this year. I mean, it's only the second race, but they're a really, really strong contender. I don't know what Zach and his team have been doing over the last year and a half, 2 years, but this year, once again, they're doing really well. Not what I wanted for Hamilton. Obviously, Hamilton's move to Ferrari has been major news over the last 12 months ago, actually. Yesterday's sprint race, he actually won that, which was good to see. Second race for him in Ferrari, and he's won that. That's perhaps another record. I don't know who has won the most races in the time frame right at the beginning of when they started in a new team, especially at Ferrari. So you had Kimi Räikkönen, you had Felipe Massa, and all those previous drivers. When they switched to Ferrari, how many races did it take them to win their first race? I don't know the stats on that, but Hamilton won in his second race. Technically, the sprint race is still considered a race. So another record. Let's see how strong this year is. But when next year's regulations come in, when the new engine regulations actually change in 2026, I think that's when we might see a big difference throughout the order of all the teams. And could it be Hamilton's 9th World Championship? Not 8th in my head and in many other people's minds. I think this will be his 9th World Championship. If you know, you know.
That would display like a tidbit or a teaser of our information.
While you're doing that, do the users have the ability to customize what instruments they can see, or we set it as one and then they keep it as that?
Yeah, that's where my product team, which is based out of Barcelona, they get involved in helping put something like that together.
Sometimes you gotta sit here at silly hours of the night when you're really tired
because you've been spending a whole day working and doing a load of other things, and continue to work. Continue to build your business, because entrepreneurship in general is a very difficult task. It isn't made for everybody, and if you are one of those people who have embarked on this journey, you know it's going to be a very tough one, but the journey is what counts at the end of the day. You know, it's no point of doing it for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, and then giving up on it because you're not seeing the results. This shit takes time, and it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work and consistency to really get it into stride and where it needs to be. And of course that depends on what business you have ventured into. Each one has its own pros and cons. Regardless, if you're not spending time working on your business or even on yourself as an individual, knowing how the world is becoming and how difficult things are starting to get, or how expensive things are starting to get, if you're not doing things the correct way, then you're just making things even worse for yourself. You got to work at it. At the end of the day, every moment that you get that's free, even if you're doing a 9 to 5, you should be spending working on something for yourself to build on. And if you're not doing that, you don't have your priorities right.
All right, I have a meeting today with a supplier that I need to work with for our upcoming projects. And working with suppliers is actually, and knowing how to work with them is super important, because if they are a key element in your supply chain and something goes wrong with that supplier, and it's going to affect you as a company and ultimately your end customers. But if anything down your supply chain messes up, like for example you have delays with materials, or you have delays with the order being processed, or shipping problems, etc., all of those things actually matter, and they are all a key component to the successful transaction from source to end customer. Having a backup is going to be something that you should definitely consider, because then it makes sure on your end that you don't have any delays. So for example, if you have a courier that's not got such a good reputation, first of all, don't use them. Secondly, if you have one that's got good reputation, but then there are problems they may face over a period of a couple of days, you got to have a backup supplier ready in order to make sure that your order gets to where it needs to go, or whatever the case may be. The point is, you need to have a backup plan for your supply chain, because anything goes wrong in your supply chain, then that causes problems for you as a company. Doesn't give you the best reputation in the long run if your customers are leaving you bad reviews because of delays or whatever the case is. So it's a topic that is definitely something that you need to consider. Also, how are they managing data? How are they handling your information? If you are processing information and you're giving them user details, that's a massive factor to also consider. I mean, there's loads of things that you need to consider when it comes to supply chain in general. If that's something that you guys want to hear more about, I can perhaps make a separate video for you guys to understand and really go into detail of everything that's necessary for you to ensure that processes and everything runs as smoothly as it should.
It's really fantastic. I've seen the work you've done. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it.
Obviously, if you live here in the UK, you understand what the market here is like, or unless you haven't done your research. But for example, if you go to the Far East or the Middle East, the market there is completely different, and you've got to do things in a completely different way to attract the same audience, because they do things differently, they see things differently, they want things in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to cater to that when you are there and understand how that market really works. But you can only do that with time, experience, and perhaps being there in the first place.
Hi, I'm in the park because the sun's out, which you don't get often here in London, but I'm here and I'm trying to have a bit of a tan. Shall I say tan? Anyway, I'm enjoying the sun. Right, there's a couple of things I want to mention real quick, because this is important if you're running a business or if you're starting a business. I got my phone here because I got some notes. When you are working with the business from you as your own business and you're trying to work with other businesses, there are a few very important things that you need to do to ensure that things run smoothly and everything transitions in a really sort of natural kind of way. The first and most important thing is you need to do some research on the company that you're trying to work with, right? What does your business have to offer to them, that as in the company that you're trying to work with, and what is that business trying to deliver to you as value? Because everything has to be an exchange of value. So what are you exchanging with them in order for them to exchange something with you? How do your values align with them? How do your values as a brand, as a company, align with the values of what they are trying to do, that company is trying to do, and what values are you trying to gain out of them to be of mutual benefit, okay? Due diligence, research. on the company. That's the second thing. In fact, that should actually be the first thing. How are, or rather, what is the financial position of that company that you're working with? Are they in a position where their finances are in check? If they're not in check, why are they not in check? In fact, sometimes that could actually even work in your favor, because if their finances are not in check, why could that be of benefit to you? Because it may be a case of, if you are very heavy on cash flow, which is a good thing to be, you can invest some of your cash flow into that company. So essentially you're making an investment into that company as either a share in the company or to provide cash flow for them, which means you should be able to get an equity deal of some sort, or of some kind of value or additional benefit. So that's something to definitely look into. Number 3, clear communication and transparency. That is always a good thing in business, no matter what kind of business you do, that you should maintain whenever you're dealing with an external business or a business partner or any kind of relationship within the business. Make sure you have communication and transparency as one of the main priorities in your business, because without that, you're not really building trust, you're not building any kind of reputation for yourself, and it ain't gonna work out in the long run for you. So make sure you get that in your playbook. That leads me on to number 4, building trust. That also comes from transparency. That also comes from you showing and delivering results to the business partner, i.e. the other company that you're trying to work with. When they see that from you, that will yield results reverse back to you, because that's obviously one of the key elements of building trust. Make sure you have transparency and make sure you are not doing any dodgy deals behind the table. You don't have any bad intentions going into the deal in the first place, because what's the point then? Just don't do it. Number 5, negotiate the contract. When you're working with a business, you need to have a contract in place. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't look very professional. You have to cover yourself as a business, because you don't want problems down the line if you've done anything wrong. It kind of goes back to what I said about supply chain things, right? You got to have a supply chain in place to make sure everything runs smoothly. Now, if you're not having a contract in place, don't do the deal. Don't work with a company. You got to have contract in place. You got to show them that this is what I want. In order to have a contract in place, you have to make sure the terms and the conditions that are on there meet your requirements and meet the other company's requirements. So that's where the negotiation comes from. What do you want from the other company? What are you asking for in return for what you are delivering them? If it's a service provider, okay, what is the service that they're providing to you? What terms do you need to set for them to provide their service effectively and efficiently? And in return, what protocols do you need to follow to make sure that they get their end of the bargain as well, because it's a deal. So you got to give them something in return for what they are giving you, no matter what business you're in. Number 6, maintain a good relationship at all times. Even if it's rough at the beginning, you got to find ways to improve it. If it's great at the beginning, don't ruin it down the line. What protocols need to be in place to make sure that your relationship with the brand or the company or whoever it is stays good, stays as it should be, to maintain a good, healthy relationship, just as in any other relationship really. Even if it's just like a personal relationship, you got to have good communication, trust, reputation, all that kind of stuff that I've already mentioned builds onto what I've just said about maintaining that growth and relationship. And then finally, well, this is not the final thing, but I'll end it on this last point, which is adapting and adopting to change. The market is ever evolving. You guys need to know and understand what the upcoming trends are, how these things are going to affect your business, what new sort of aspects are coming into the market that can affect your business, like AI, for example. What are you doing that's going to potentially cause problems later on for your business because you haven't adapted, because you haven't adopted the new technologies, or you haven't understood the market and where the market is going in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? How is that going to affect your business that you're about to do with whichever company you're about to do it with? So understand their future, understand your future, and then build on it, grow together. I'm going to leave it there. There are plenty more things I can say, but in the interest of time and this video, if you want me to do a completely separate video about that, let me know, I'll do that. But for now, I hope that helps you guys. So make sure you follow those things, because they are going to help you in the long run and help you work towards a successful partnership with whoever you're working with. I need to get some oil because it's time for a car service. And the one I usually get is always Castrol Edge 5W30. 5 litres, I think it should be enough. You've got to get the best engine oil you can. This is going to have to do for now. Oh, by the way, I'm in Costco. Spend a lot of time in this shop every month because they have pretty much everything we need. Obviously, if you know Costco, it's an American brand, I believe, but he's here in the UK. I love coming here because it's all got everything that I need. And I end up doing around
£800,000, $1,300 worth of shopping every month, pretty much, because then I got it stacked up for the rest of the month, whatever I need. So it's always good. Anyway, for now, oil is all I need from this section. Then I need to go and pick up some other bits from Euro car parts, like oil filters, sump plug, all the essentials. And then I'll get the garage to sort it out for me, and then we're good to go.
Ground floor. Finished the shopping spree that I just went on. Going down, yeah. Yeah, so I finished what I was doing, and now I've come to somewhere else to do some more shopping because it's necessary here too.
Oh, they've got Pure Gym here. I didn't know that. Wendy's is opened up here too. All right, Wendy's. Five Guys. I haven't been to Five Guys in a while.
I found a dress.
And no, it's not for me.
Right. This is the last mission for today. There's plenty more I need to do. But I think we're gonna have to do that over the weekend. So today's Friday. Eid is Monday, I believe. Mother's Day on Sunday. So there's a lot to get done between now and then. That's all right, I'll just take that as is. Yes, please. Thank you very much. You too, thanks. London's not exactly the safest place to be. You gotta keep your wits about you. And I'm trying to obviously keep my wits about me while I got this camera in my hand. It's not easy to do these vlogs as well while you're out here. It feels weird as well when you're like stretching your arm down the road, especially in a busy street like this. But again, like I said, you gotta do what you gotta do. And to bring you guys the content that you're seeing.
Well, you have to.
You're not big enough.
Exactly. And I say the same thing to people. You know, people like to. Well, they limit themselves. Ultimately, is what I'm saying. Because they're afraid of whatever they want to achieve later on. Yeah, I would like to take the company in a much wider direction throughout this year and onwards. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to sort of move ahead with you guys and join that venture in, because it will add value along the way. It may not be instantly, but it will definitely come into its own over the next couple of years or so. So that's the way I'm looking at it in the long run. Yo.
Oh, mate.
What's happening?
How's it going?
Welcome back to London, or to Manchester. How's the trip away, man?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. I'm just suffering with jet lag.
So, last few days have been extremely busy. We had Mother's Day, we had Eid. That's like one of the very few days that I got to take a little bit of time off. Then the rest of the week has been, really, really busy. I had a few meetings, as you guys have seen. Obviously, I can't show much of what is happening in these meetings. As I've explained in previous vlogs, I can't show you everything yet. We may get to a stage later on where things can be revealed more. I'm sure that will begin to happen, but now's not the time. So I'm going to leave you guys with a little bit of suspense and a little bit of mystery. But of course, at the end of the day, when running a business, you have to keep certain protocols and policies, etc., quiet, regardless of what it is that you're doing. Yeah, sometimes the week can be like that. Sometimes many weeks in a row can be like that. So I'm trying to do things that are a bit more entertaining for you guys to watch, because at the end of the day, running a business, being an entrepreneur, it's not the most glamorous thing, which you guys have seen over and over again on Instagram. So you may not see a lot of that on this channel. You're going to see more of building the business, or building a business, what it takes to get to that point of running a successful business, and the things that are involved, the protocols, the difficulties, the challenges, everything that it takes to get to that point. And of course, it depends entirely on what field you're in. But regardless, there are certain things that are sort of global. Doesn't matter what business it is that you're doing. So you're going to see more of that in the coming weeks and in the coming months. Now, today has been horrific if you are in the financial markets. In fact, if you're just generally in investments as an investor or a fund or even a massive tech company, across the board, it has been really, really bad. Ever since tariffs have been introduced by Trump, everything has been red, okay? Markets have slumped hugely. The Dow Jones, for example, or US 30, has dropped more than $3,000, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's probably done more than that now since because I looked at it early this morning, and yesterday's been doing some crazy moves. Gold has been absolutely nuts as well on the way down, which has been dropping over 1500 pips. Now that's a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of movements. So why is this happening? I'm just going to give you a brief overview of why this is happening, or one of the massive reasons why it's happening. It's all to do with Trump introducing tariffs. Now, if you don't know what tariffs are, think of it like an additional tax for all companies who are importing goods or selling goods to the US. So for example, let's take Range Rover here in the UK, right? If Range Rover is now importing cars to the US, there will be a tariff applied, which means there will be an additional 10 to 20%, I'm not sure of the exact figure, but an additional 10 to 20% will be applied in terms of import duties and tax fees and all that kind of crap to every country that is importing or exporting goods from their country into the US. Why is this happening? Well, one of the biggest reasons is because the US wants to strengthen its own internal production, its own manufacturing, so it doesn't rely on external companies, therefore creating more jobs, therefore strengthening its own economy, etc. How does that affect everybody else around the world? Well, think about it. Let's take Apple, for example. Apple produces its components or its phones, etc. the majority of it is done in China. China has a 34% tariff applied to it, which means Apple is going to take a massive hit with every product that it is bringing into the US. So what have they done? They've now moved some of the production out of China because Tim Cook, which is the CEO of Apple, he had a conversation with Trump, and they said, you know what, give us a sort of green pass here or whatever, let us get away with it, essentially. Trump said, okay, let's not imply these taxes to Apple. So they moved all of their production out of China into Vietnam. Vietnam got hit with a 49% tariff. 46 or 49%, which is absolutely nuts, okay? So Apple's move from China to Vietnam has made it even worse, which doesn't really help at all. Now, how does that affect us? Well, it either means we take a big hit when we purchase products from whatever company it is, let's say Apple for example, if they increase their prices, which they're going to have to do to compensate for the tariffs that are being applied to them. Just today alone, Apple's stock has dropped 10%, which is a huge amount, which hasn't happened since March of 2020, which is, what happened in 2020, right? But I'm not going to get into that conversation. So all of these things are going to be very important to look out for moving forward. However, if the market has dropped massively now, which it has done, it could actually set way in the future for the market to climb aggressively as well. Why? Well, because the more this happens, the more tariffs are introduced, it will force the Federal Reserve's hand to lower interest rates, to rebalance the economy. So when the actual interest rates come down, and as Chair Powell reduces those interest rates, it will set a chain reaction, hopefully, this is the plan, to investors to get involved again, because there's lower interests, which means purchasing power could be slightly more elevated, and that's going to allow investors to start pumping money back into the economy, into different asset classes, raising the stock market's value once again. So at the moment, it might seem there is literally blood in the water, as they say, if you're an investor, which is not good for anyone sort of investing or trading. And obviously that's causing investors to figure out where to store their money, where to put their money at the moment. Doesn't matter where you put your money, doesn't matter if it's in stocks, doesn't matter if it's in gold, whatever, everything is red. Everything is dropping massively, which is quite worrying because that could lead to a recession. So something to look out for. And I'm going to be keeping my eye on that over the next couple of weeks, next few months. It could be, it's probably an ongoing thing throughout this entire year. So keep an eye on that. Stay safe. Watch where your money is going. Make sure you are managing your risk if you are trading, because that's a very important part. And you really need to know and understand what the economy is doing. So don't just look at the charts, because a lot of people think they can just look at the charts and they can make money from it. Yes, that can be the case, but you got to look at the economy. The economy is there for a reason. These news events, etc., they are all there for a reason. They all have a massive effect, so keep an eye on everything. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to end the vlog here too. And hopefully in the next few vlogs there will be a lot more exciting things coming up. There are a few events that I need to attend over the next few weeks as well, and a lot of exciting activities also that have to be implemented with what we are developing. If you want to know more of what I'm developing, as I said to you before, follow my Instagram, link in the description below. And of course, as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you are interested in what we're doing and want to learn more as well. Definitely follow this journey because it's going to be an exciting one. On that note, I will see you guys very soon. Take care.